Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Harrison Reed, and I'm here to teach you the trombone. Today is a really important lesson, and it's one that I wish coming up in high school somebody had taught me the way I'm going to teach you today. It's a little bit involved of a lesson, and I think it's important. I don't think that it's so much that my teachers didn't know this and didn't want me to learn this when I was in high school. Just the way my brain works, the way I'm going to teach this today would have helped me out a lot. So I hope it helps you out too. I'm going to go from a very low level, beginner kind of explanation, and like in a lot of videos that I'm seeing lately, I'm going to move up in difficulty from beginner level to kind of layman's level to upper level thinking on this subject. So what's the lesson? Well, how to make a sound on the trombone or any brass instrument. So here we go. Here's level one. So level one, I'm going to read off of my notes that I have here. Air passes through your lips to energize the air that already is in the trombone. The resistance from the air in the trombone pushes back on your face, and that's what gets your lips vibrating and what makes the tone. That sounds complicated, but it doesn't need to be. Everybody's held a balloon when they were a kid. So if you can picture, remember when you had that balloon in your hand and you squeeze on it, that air is a real thing and it pushes back on you. And so we think of air as like a gas, but it also kind of behaves like a liquid. We can push waves through it and move energy through it. So when we're playing a brass instrument and the air is going through our lips into the bore of that instrument, this trombone, it's a tube. It's full of air. So once that air goes in, it kind of creates a pressure, compression in that tube, and that compression moves into the tube. I don't want to get into physics. I'm not a physicist, but if you go on Wikipedia, you can look up the physics of brass instruments, and that's what's really making the sound. It's not your buzzing lips. It's the air in this tube vibrating, and that's from that compression. So let's not overthink it for level one. We want to have a good seal around our lips from the mouthpiece. So put your mouthpiece where it feels natural. And what do I mean by that? It's not pressing into my face, and it just feels like it's on the right spot for where my teeth are. So for me, it's about here. And what do I mean by a good seal? I'm not pushing the mouthpiece into my face, but I just want to prevent air from escaping out of the corners of my mouth. And then if you want to think about what's called the embouchure, the way our lips go together, the lips are going to be lightly together. I'm not stretching them over my teeth. I'm not doing anything weird with them. If anything, maybe the corners of my mouth are firm, not tense, just firm. And then this lower lip here on my chin is going to be firm and form a shelf that the mouthpiece can sit on. We're going to play what's called an F, and that's a good middle note on the trombone. And I'm just thinking about energizing the air in here. So here's an F. And I can feel the horn pushing back on me, and that's me applying energy to the air in here. And it's as simple as that. That's level one. Okay, guys, here's level two. Again, air passes through our lips, and our lips are offset. That's the difference. And that offset lip structure pushes the air into the bore of the horn, and that's what energizes the air and gets it moving, and then that pushes back on us and gets our lips vibrating, and then the sound comes out. So this level two is kind of for somebody who maybe has been playing for a year or more. People could be playing for decades and never thought about any of this stuff that I'm talking about today. So the difference here between level one and level two, now I've thrown in the offset nature of our embouchure into the mix. I think for a lot of players, and even some professional players, there's this idea that, the mouthpiece needs to be perfectly 50-50 split on my upper lip and my lower lip, and perfectly centered on my face, and my teeth need to be perfectly aligned. Let me tell you, humans aren't like that. Feel your jaw. For me, my lower jaw is smaller than my upper jaw, so it comes in behind my upper teeth. That's called an underbite. I think it's called an underbite. I'm going to call it an underbite. So what does that mean? My air, because of that, and because I'm not going to force my jaw out farther so that my teeth are aligned, my air goes down. So go ahead and grab your mouthpiece and pretend like you're about to play like a middle F or something and feel where that is. And for me, when I blow, my air's coming down here. It's actually going down. And that's what's called a downstream embouchure, or downstream. I'm a downstream player. My airstream goes down through the aperture of my lips. There's another type. If you're doing the same experiment and you put your mouthpiece up and you figured out where F would be and blew, and you feel air going past your nose or up here somewhere, you're an upstream player. That's not as common on the trombone as a downstream player, but it's important to know if you're one or the other. I'm focusing this lesson on downstream playing and those concepts. So if you're an upstream player, take what I'm saying as far as where my jaw is moving and all that stuff, and it's going to be kind of the opposite for you, especially for where the air is hitting in the mouthpiece. Okay, so upstream versus downstream, we've talked about that a little bit. Now what happens if we do try to have 50-50, even everything, and blow straight through our lips? Well, what happens is no lip is dominant, so both lips will vibrate independently of each other if you do that. And that's when, on some beginners, when we hear like a split tone, or that really weird, it's like not a note, it's, and I'll demonstrate. This is what happens. So, do you hear that? That's called a split tone. In some fancy pieces, it's actually an effect that is called for, and they'll call it lip multiphonics. But at this stage, we don't want to be doing that. So that's kind of what happens. If you overblow your horn and if you have everything lined up, you'll get this split tone. So you need to embrace the fact that you might have a larger or lower jaw than your upper jaw, and that there's this offset nature to your playing. Understand that that's a part of brass playing. So for me, downstream player, remember I talked about having a firm lower jaw. That's important to me because that's my anchor point. So my lower lip doesn't vibrate as much as my upper lip. My upper lip is left free to vibrate when I play, and that's my dominant lip. And I use my upper lip to control all of my aperture, along with where my jaw moves forward and backwards. So how does this come into play? Well, let's do that middle F again. And if I move down a partial to the B flat below that, you'll see my lower jaw is going to move forward a little bit, and my airstream, instead of for the middle F where it's going like this, my airstream is going to be going a little bit closer, aligned with the bore, towards the throat and the mouthpiece. And that's got to do with controlling the pushback that I'm getting, that resistance that I'm getting on the horn, and that's how I'm going to control the partial. So watch, F to B flat. And if I go lower, my lower jaw is going to move even further forward to open that up a little bit more. And I can feel, especially on that pedal tone, it's really my upper lip that's vibrating, and that's because the horn is pushing back on me, and because my lower lip is my anchor point. Now, if I move into the upper register, my jaw's going to come back a little bit, and the air is going to be forced through that offset embouchure a little bit further down. If you think of the mouthpiece as a cup, when we're playing in the, well, obviously we play this way, the cup shape like this. So for a downstream player, when I'm playing in the upper register, that air's hitting closer to the rim in the cup, and then when I go into the lower register, it's going closer straight in, and that's how we control these different registers. So let's move up a little bit. So I can feel my air is changing directions, and that's how we control pitches. So that's why it's really important to have an offset embouchure that your lips blow through, and that's level 2. All right, so level 3, we're going to add the tongue in to play for level 3, and I want you to think of, well, let me read it first. Air passes over the tongue, which shapes it through the aperture of your lips. Speeds or slows the air down, which meets the resistance from the air in the trombone. That creates the vibrations from the air in the trombone, which gets your lips vibrating and produces the tone. We're adding the tongue in, and to me, the shape of the tongue and the way your tongue controls all the different partials and moves in your mouth is everything as far as tone and getting the note that you want to play to come out. So the way that we're going to talk about this is I want you to do an experiment. So we're going to start with F, and we're going to play a middle F with the best sound that we can get. So here we go. Here's F. And think about, where was my tongue positioned, and not just the tip of the tongue, but the whole length of it. For me, it's in a neutral position. So if this is the roof of my mouth and here's my upper teeth, just imagine the air is flowing this way from my body. For that middle register, my tongue is kind of in a neutral position. So there's a lot of room in front of it that the air comes through, and kind of, it's still going down, but it's passing over the tongue and then going through the aperture right to where we want it to hit for that middle register. And then I want you to play that F and move your tongue to a position that's different. So we're going to lower it this time. I'm going to move my jaw forward and down, and I'm going to move the back of my tongue down. And watch what happens to that nice, beautiful F that we had when we have their tongue in the wrong position. If you keep doing it, eventually you go into the lower partial. You can't sustain it. That F just disappears. So if we can make it sound worse, maybe we can make it sound better. Let's go in the opposite direction. I want you to try this on your own too, where we move the back of our tongue up, and then we'll see what that does, and then we're going to move the front of our tongue towards our teeth and see what that does to the air. And we're going to try to hold that F, and you'll see you won't be able to hold it. It just doesn't work. The reason why is that tongue is controlling the speed and the direction of the air inside my mouth and how it hits the mouthpiece. If you want that F to have that rich sound, you need to be having the resistance from the horn in equilibrium with the airflow out of you. If you're sending in air that should be for a higher partial, but everything else is set for your F, it's not going to speak. So the tongue needs to be used in conjunction with what you're doing with your embouchure to change these pitches. Let's go F to B flat. My jaw's going to go forward a little bit, and my tongue's going to lower. But I'm actually intentionally going to be blowing and shaping my aperture for a B flat, and you'll see, you can probably see the difference. And then F to the higher B flat. My tongue is getting higher for the higher B flat. And where this is really apparent and where you can really work on this is with octaves. So if I do an octave, the back of my tongue is going to come way up. And that controls, I'm not going to articulate, I'm not going to close off my throat, but that's going to control that air speed and air direction very quickly to get octaves to speak out. So one way that I teach tongue position is through octaves, and I encourage you right now to give some octaves a try. And then if we do the upper octave, I'm starting with my tongue in a higher position, and then I can make the back of my tongue and maybe even the middle portion of my tongue go even higher inside my mouth to control those octaves. The only way to learn this is to do it yourself and to be aware that, yes, indeed, the tongue has such an effect on the resistance and such an effect on the airstream, and you can't take it out of the equation. Once you learn to control it, you should be thinking about it all the time to get the best tone that you can. And that's level 3. All right, guys, last level, level 4. This is not for beginners. This is for people who probably are either professionals or have been playing a while in college, and they understand, yes, the tongue controls the airspeed, yes, the aperture, and I know where I need to hit. So you can have a huge effect on how that air stream and the resistance interacts with your trombone with the type of mouthpiece that you play. I'm not going to talk about what mouthpieces I play, but I'm going to talk about the aperture, or the attributes of these mouthpieces. My favorite mouthpiece to play has a relatively shallow cup with a large throat. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for my style of playing. If you think about, I'm a downstream player. For the upper register, we want our air going as close to this rim as we can. If the cup is shallow, we have a much bigger target. Even if I'm a little off, it's still going to be hitting close to that rim. And I'm going to feel that resistance, and that mouthpiece will funnel the air in to get the compression that I need for the upper register. And because this kind of has a throat that's been widened out a little bit, when I do go for the lower register, I kind of have a decent target to hit for that as well, around the throat. So mouthpiece, I need to say, if you're one of the beginners and you made it this far in the video, these are just tools that help us accomplish what we need to accomplish. They're not the solution. So don't think, oh, I'm going to get a really shallow mouthpiece and then I can do everything great. No, when you're starting out, you should use something that's very mainstream and learn how to control your tongue, learn how to control your aperture, and do all the things you need to do on a normal mouthpiece. And then once you figured out what you need to do for your day-to-day playing and you understand all those concepts, then yeah, sure. I think there's nothing wrong with having a large ensemble mouthpiece, which might have a bigger cup, versus a shallower mouthpiece like this, which might be better for solo stuff. So, all right, yeah. Let's go into the upper register with this, and I'm gonna just play some notes, and maybe you can hear the difference and see the difference, and I'll just give you some of my thoughts. So this is the shallowest mouthpiece that I have. So one thing that it's really easy for me to hit that because of the nature of this mouthpiece, that upper E flat, and I don't have to be so exact with where my airstream's going. One thing that's important to remember up in this very high register is your tongue's going to be high in your mouth, high behind your teeth, and as you articulate, you can't return back down. It's going to be up there the whole time. So yeah, there's not a lot of volume left in my mouth up in that register. And then in the lower register, you can hear I've chosen a mouthpiece that's not so shallow that I can't play in the lower register. That's why I like this mouthpiece. But what we can do now is switch to a very similar mouthpiece that has a bit more of a bowl-shaped cup. I'm just going to play it and see if you can hear the difference, and then I'll talk about what I'm thinking afterwards. And then some lower register stuff on this. Yeah, so for this, if I'm going to do some middle register playing or just standard stuff, or orchestral stuff. I have a bigger target to hit for middle to mid upper register on a deeper cup like that, and I feel on this mouthpiece the trombone's pushing back more on me in those registers, whereas on the shallower cup, I think in the middle register the resistance isn't quite as broad. It's a really difficult term, but these are just my thoughts. So yeah, that's a more bowl-shaped mouthpiece. That's what that sounds like. And then I've got one that's even deeper. Same cup width, same rim width, but this is the deepest cup that I have, and I'm gonna do the same thing. And I hope I can hit these notes in the upper register. This is not the best mouthpiece for the upper register for me, but again, this has a very deep, almost like a cliff, as the rim goes into the cup. So I have a very small target to hit for the upper register. But here's that E flat arpeggio again. So on this one, in the upper register, with this kind of cup, sure, the note speaks, but it's like sucking the air out of my body. There's no resistance, and I think that has a lot to do with the throat, but also the cup shape. On that shallow cup, it's almost like I'm hitting a wall, and then that wall just shoots the air in, and it's easy. On this, I have to be very careful, and I have to use a lot of air to get that upper E flat to speak. So, but you can hear the sound is different, and in the lower register it's different. So it's just another tool, especially once you're in college and once you're working on stuff. Do you want to, oh yeah, if you're working in orchestra, I can do that one excerpt again on this. Here's that Mahler. So yeah, in the the mid register, the resistance just feels great on this style of mouthpiece. I think level 4, what I'm talking about for this lesson, the big takeaway is resistance. And if you can get a mouthpiece that changes the resistance for what the type of playing that you're trying to do, it's a win. So resistance is king. Your horn is always going to give you feedback, and everything we're doing, our aperture, just the amount of air that we use, the tongue position, even the shape of the mouthpiece cup, all of those we want to work in conjunction to get the resistance that we need to get the sound and the register and all the things that we want to have happen. That's the name of the game. This has been a long lesson. If you can figure this stuff out and have everything working for you 100% of the time, you don't need any more lessons. That's what we're going to be trying to solve this puzzle for the rest of my series. So hey, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, guys.